Hi, I'm Jay Fox, and this is my story with ARFID. We've always kind of known that I had sensory issues. They just weren't seen as dire until 8th grade. In 8th grade science class, I showed up to class, obviously, and there was another kid that was not feeling so good. And at some point, the teacher told him that if anything goes wrong, just go to the front office. And I started feeling really dizzy for no reason. I was sitting down, nothing was happening. I was sitting at my desk, and my body just felt numb. My vision got blurry and full of static. It sounded like static in my head, sounded like I was underwater, and the world just looked like it was a TV losing signal. And I raised my hand, and then I collapsed. I was apparently not gone for long, because I woke up on the classroom floor, and our teacher assigned the one kid that was feeling sick to guide me to the front office for us both to go home, which was a fantastic idea. Send the kid that just collapsed with the kid feeling sick. Surely one's going to be able to keep the other up. My high school didn't have a nurse. Our nurse was just kind of our principal. And so I went to the front office to get checked by our principal, and my temperature was below 70 Fahrenheit. And my dad was called, and once he got there, I was taken home, and then we decided to go through a bunch of doctor's visits because we thought I was just sick. And they found that I was severely underweight. I weighed about 70 pounds at 13 years old. I weighed so little that the 6th graders, once they got word of this, had competitions to see who'd pick me up easier. It was not fun. I was not eating enough food. I was not eating enough variety of food. I was sent to an eating disorder clinic and asked a lot of questions about my body image, which I gave honest responses to. I didn't really hate my body. I was fine. I'm fine with, like, my general weight. And then they started asking me about my relationship with food and about hunger. And I realized that I apparently do not feel it. I apparently don't feel hunger. And that was a big problem because I was not getting the cues from my body to eat. And so when it came time for an actual diagnosis, I was diagnosed with avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, otherwise known as ARFID. I felt nauseous, I felt lightheaded, and those are like the only things that can tell my body that I need to eat. And at that point, it's been like a few good days of not eating to get to that point. I also explained to the therapist at the eating disorder clinic that I had trouble swallowing foods, that in order to avoid getting food mushy in my mouth and making me nauseous, I just wouldn't chew my food enough and it would hurt to swallow. And because of my answers of the lack of hunger cues and sensory issues, I was further diagnosed with the specific subsets of lack of interest and sensory avoidance. And it was only after this diagnosis that the people around me started noticing these things about how I apparently did not react to food correctly. That I've been, like, I eat something that's supposed to be sweet, like strawberries, and I'll make this face and everyone assumes that I just ate something sour, when I didn't. And it's like that with a lot. I will say, oh, this is really sour, and someone will just look at me really weird and say, that's not supposed to be sour. After this, the original approach from people was to just force me to eat. No matter how full I was, if I didn't like the food, I was just forced to eat it. I didn't have any other choice. And this proved to be counterproductive to helping, because when my mom went on a 2-day vacation, I didn't eat anything throughout that time, because food became from just some inconvenient task I had to do into something that felt like a punishment or a chore to do. And also, there was one time where I was forced to eat food at a restaurant that I knew something was up with it. It was bread, and it was shiny. Bread's not supposed to be shiny. And I said that. I was like, this bread doesn't look right. I don't want to eat it. But I was forced to eat it anyway. And I had an allergic reaction because there was egg wash on the bread, and that's why it was shiny when it wasn't supposed to be. Explaining that I have an eating disorder to others usually gets the same responses no matter what. It's usually a response with very dramatic compliments about my weight, to say, but you don't look that fat. Yeah, that's kind of the problem. Other times, if I don't explain I have an eating disorder and I just say that I don't want to eat this thing or that I don't like this kind of food, I will get accusations that I'm just trying to be special or I'm just picky. And this happened a lot throughout school, trying to explain that I can't eat pizza, burgers, because of the mixture of way too many textures. And people will just assume that I'm just lying and trying to be different. I'm not. I'm just saying that I don't want to go out to eat with you because I know we're not going to go somewhere I can eat something at. And then I feel awkward just kind of sitting there at the table with nothing to eat, just watching everyone else eat. And I hate watching people eat as much as I hate people watching me eat. And then there's been some times where my explaining of how RFID affects sensory issues has led to people I know making assumptions about my physical health as well. On Halloween, I believe it was my sophomore year, students were handing out candy. I made an offhand comment about Jolly Ranchers and apple cider burning my mouth. And everyone just said, that's not good, you must be allergic to them. And no matter how many times I tried to say, no, it's not an allergy burn, I don't feel sick afterwards, I don't swell, my face doesn't swell up afterwards, I don't get red afterwards, my stomach doesn't hurt afterwards. It's more just like a peppermint burn, no matter, like sugary things, artificial sugar, natural sugar, it gives me a peppermint burn no matter what. And it's not painful, it's just inconvenient. But no matter how many times I tried to explain that, they kept insisting that they were right. There are still times where I feel like I'll almost pass out. But it's been years since that first really bad fall. And with lots of therapy and help from doctors and understanding of what's going on. I've been able to get myself to a more healthy weight. I'm now over 100 pounds, which means that 6th graders can no longer power lift me. I know that an eating disorder like this will be with me forever, but having the diagnosis for it and being able to get help because of that diagnosis has let me live. To put it lightly, ARFID is not exactly a well-known eating disorder, and most of the time when some character in the media is more picky about their eating, it's usually the punchline of a joke. So that further leads to this idea that ARFID is not an eating disorder and it's just a child being picky about food, when it's much more than that. There's the lack of hunger cues. There's the other subcategory of ARFID I don't fit into, which is the fear of choking, vomiting, eating something you're allergic to. That also has to do with ARFID. There's the sensory issues that it's typically connected to autism. So I just hope that with the age of the internet, this information will spread faster to more people. People will be able to understand things about it and hopefully not assume that their friend is allergic to Jolly Ranchers when they mention a peppermint burn in their mouth when eating sugar. And at least I'm not dead yet.